everybody, welcome back. It is the end of the month, or it's close enough to the end of the month. And I'm going to do my TBR wrap-up. This month I read quite a bit. I read all of the books I checked out physically from the library. And I did finish one ebook that I started technically in January. And then I also finished an audiobook that I technically started in January. And I'm almost done with another audiobook. So I'm just going to include it in here because it's not quite the end of the month that I'm recording this, but it will be the end of the month soon, and I'm definitely going to finish it. I only have like an hour and a half left on this audiobook, so I'm going to finish that. And I did start another ebook, but I'm only like 20% in that. But I'll talk about it in here as well because hopefully I can finish it before the end of the month. Probably not. But also mention it because I did start reading it at least in February. So I'll start with the stuff I did finish. So the ebook I finished was Ace of Spades. I gave that a 5 out of 5. I would say it's very reminiscent of like Karen McManus's like One of Us is Lying / One of Us is Next kind of vibes, right? Yeah, and then it's been compared to like Get Out meets Gossip Girl, and I also agree, like with this whole like texting of secrets, like is very Gossip Girl, and then Get Out because of the race situation. So highly recommend that one. I really enjoyed it. I heard the audiobook is super good for it, so I kind of regret not listening to the audiobook, but reading it was good as well. And then the audiobook I read was Raybearer, which I loved. I will say parts of it was kind of slow. Like there were parts where I'm just like, oh my god, I feel like I've been listening to this for forever, and I only got like 5% done, and I'm like but then there were other parts that were super good and went by really fast, so it's a mixed bag on pace for me, but I really enjoyed it, and I still ranked that one a 5-star. I will say I was also really happy that there was like some slight ace representation. A character mentioned that they were not really looking to procreate and like weren't really even sure if they wanted to have romantic and sexual relations with other characters. I'm just like, I wonder if it's going to be fleshed out in Redemptor or not. But if it's not a big deal. I still appreciated the bit of like, I don't think I'm into any of you romantically or sexually. It's just like, I love you as my family, but I don't know if I want to get in the business, you know what I mean? So I did appreciate that. Whether that character gets a little more fleshed out in their sexuality or not, it could go either way for me. If they don't, that's fine. If they do, that'd be really exciting. But it is available, so I actually had it delivered later, so I will be listening to Redemptor in the next few weeks, so I'm very excited about that. The other ebook and audiobook I am currently reading, so the audiobook is Black Klansman. I'm not sure where I'm gonna put that in terms of ranking, because the whole like topic and investigation is super interesting, but the author, who is also the narrator of the audiobook, it really just kind of sounds like you're sitting listening to like your dad or your grandpa telling you a story that you're like kind of interested in, but then he gets a little rambly, so you kind of zone out, and then you kind of like come back into like an interesting part, and then you slowly drift back out of the conversation. You kind of have to come back in. So it's very interesting. Like the interesting parts are super interesting, but then sometimes I kind of start drifting out of it, and then I like snap back. I'm like, oh shoot, what was he saying? So it listens like, you know, you're listening to your dad or your grandpa kind of telling you a story that's like, oh, this is kind of interesting, and then it kind of keeps going and going, and you're kind of like, okay, is this almost done? But overall, I still think it's interesting. I feel like I'm very middle of the road on that one. Yeah, I'm very iffy on how I'm gonna feel about it. I feel like it's probably just gonna be a solid 3, maybe a 3.5, because the topic is very interesting. And it does make me want to watch the movie. Oh, excuse me. It makes me want to watch the movie that was made because of it. Because it's just like, it's such an interesting topic of like this black policeman going undercover to investigate the growing KKK in this community. It's very interesting. Yeah, but just the author seems very nice. It just really sounds like a dad just telling a story, and he just kind of keeps going, and you're kind of like, can we speed up a little bit? I gotta get to the interesting part again. And then the other ebook that I'm currently reading that I'm only like 20% into, it's an anthology, right? A collection of short stories, and it's The Phoenix Must Burn Again. I can't remember the exact title. I will definitely write down all the titles of the books that I'm mentioning down below and the authors, just so for ease of use for you to find. But so far, some of the short stories are interesting that made me want more, and then I think I only read like 3 short stories so far. So one of them I really wanted more of, and I'm just like, oh, I wish this was like a full book or at least a novella. But then some of the other ones I was kind of like, kind of slow to read through, and I kind of wasn't that interested in. But I haven't read much of it, so we're on the fence with that one so far. So now on to the stack of books. If you watched my TBR for February, you know all the books that I got. And then also I did do a reading vlog on technically 4 of these. There's one vlog that contains 3 that I don't know if it's going to be posted before this or not, and then one vlog that has the 1. So I will start with the one that I read first, which is Cinderella is Dead. This one is a 5-star for me. This is the first one I read out of all the ones I have, and I loved it. I've also realized a lot of books I read have like surprise sapphic romances in them, which is interesting. Like, I'd never go into them knowing that there's going to be like a romance of any kind, and then surprise sapphic romance. And you're like, oh, okay, I can get down with this. I really liked it. Some people had mixed feelings on this looking at reviews, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a great retelling of Cinderella and how misogyny really shapes people, and how kind of blindly following authority can also affect people. So this story follows Sophia, and yeah, I don't know. I'm so bad at remembering what books are about and like how to tell them things without spoilers. But she is in, I believe, Lille, and the whole like, oh, you have to get married and you have to be like, women are like treated like property in a way. Like, they have curfews, and it's basically everything that you think is yours is actually, it's all the men's property and men's like belongings. Like, what is your money is really your husband's money. Like, it talks about that, and how Sophia just kind of tries to fight it, and it's great. I like it. I will say there are some things where I kind of wish there was a little more story to it, simply because one character in particular, like, she's there, and then she doesn't get, like, mentioned later on, which I get because, like, she's not the focus of the story, but it would have still been kind of nice, and she was a pretty big part in the main character's life. But anyways, I digress. I liked it a lot, and yeah, highly recommend that one. The next one I read, I believe the next one was this one, which is My Sister the Serial Killer. I think I gave this a 4. It's pretty short. It's good, but I would say don't go into this thinking it's going to be about the murders. Really, like, this is like a thriller, but I feel like I didn't really read it as a thriller. I kind of just read as like any old other book kind of about interpersonal relationships and familial relationships. I will say for basically all of these, read trigger warnings because, yeah, definitely read trigger and content warnings because there are heavy topics and things that can definitely be triggering. There's a lot of like mental health, I would say, amongst all of these, and violences and abuses and stuff. So read content warnings for sure. But back to this. I don't know if you, it's a thriller. I didn't think it read like a thriller. It just kind of read like, oh, this woman and her interpersonal relationships with her sister, her mom, her coworkers, her father, that sort of thing. And like it loosely tied back to the men her sister had murdered, but it wasn't like, you kind of like forgot about it. It was always kind of underlying there, but it wasn't like a main, for me it didn't read like it was a main point of topic, like, oh, her sister calls her because she killed a dude, and so her sister helps like clean up, which it says that her sister helps clean up, and then like you kind of forget about it because then she's dealing with all of these other people, and then she just remembers, this wouldn't have happened if my sister didn't kill people, and then it would go back on to like her life. It's still entertaining, I still enjoyed it, but it didn't give me what I guess it led me to give. It was just very much more of, what was the Farida's interpersonal relationships, like, oh, I'm crushing on this person, oh, but my sister, and then, oh, my sister has all these people, like, it just, I don't know. It's good, but it wasn't what I thought it would be. How about that? Okay. The next one I read was Concrete Rose. I have read from Angie Thomas before. I read On the Come Up last year, and I watched The Hate U Give. I never read it, but I watched The Hate U Give a couple years ago. I really liked the movie, so I'm gonna eventually read it. But I loved On the Come Up. I thought it was really good. Concrete Rose is good, but not as good as On the Come Up for me. I gave this a 4-star, I believe. And it is a story about a teenage boy kind of coming to terms with his actions. He is a teenage father and kind of explores his experiences of being a teen father, being a son, being a brother and cousin, being an employee, and all the layers of being a human as a young black teen. And I really liked it. But something about it, though, there's just something missing, and I can't quite put my finger on what was missing, so that's why I gave it a 4-star. But still really good. I still got enjoyment out of it. Once again, content warnings and stuff. She has written, a lot of her books do talk about gang violence as well, and how gangs are affecting these teens, so just be aware of that as well. I don't know, I really liked it. Also, this and the next book I'm going to talk about do talk about some drug use, so just be aware of that. Yeah, I don't know, something about it. She's good, but not as good as On the Come Up. But it's still very nice read. And also, both this one and the next one, which is White Smoke, also talk about how having family in the prison system also affects all of these teenagers as well. So, yeah. So speaking of White Smoke, I believe I gave it a 4.5. Yeah, I think I gave it a 4.5. I also really enjoyed this. Duh. That's why I gave it that. For some reason, people compared this to, it's classified as like a horror thriller kind of a thing, and people compared it to, like, once again, Get Out, which I can kind of get, but I would say this one might be a little bit spoilery, so if you don't want some slight spoilers, maybe they'd be kind of big spoilers. If you don't want spoilers, skip, and I'll annotate somewhere where you can skip to, so you can skip the spoilers, but there will be spoilers. I would say this has more in common with the movie Parasite, if you've never watched Parasite, it's about a family. It's about a family trying to. Parasite was huge. It was viral a couple years ago. So if you saw Parasite, I would say this has a lot more in common with Parasite. But then again, I never watched Get Out. But anyways. So there's quite a lot of parallels. I don't know if the author was heavily inspired by Parasite, but there was a lot for me that I saw. Like, there was a character with an allergy that sent them to the hospital in here and in Parasite, and it talks about, classism, and like there's just like an eerie feeling underneath, and how one family that is not necessarily like well off, and then another family that kind of got screwed over by the system interact. Which, that's a huge spoiler, actually. Because you're like, what? They interact with a lot of families. But yeah. So this book does deal heavily with classism, gentrification, racism, drug use and abuse, mental illness, and all of that. So read your content warnings. But yeah, I don't know. There's just, for me, it was a lot more like Parasite, but place it and frame it against a blended family. So one half of the family is from one marriage, and then there's another family, and the mom has 2 children, the dad has 1 child from previous marriages when they get married. So on top of them being a blended family, they are also a mixed race family. So 2 of the kids are black, 1 of the kids is white. So it talks about the relationships amongst those kids and how they are navigating being a blended family, but it also talks about race and how, I don't know, my train of thought just kind of left my body, but it does talk about that. Also talks about how a lot of families in this town that they move into are placed up in prison for drugs, and how some of them were mis-sentenced and falsely arrested and accused because people that had never touched drugs had been framed, and there were drugs placed on their persons and in their belongings, and cops would raid them without any warning and then be like, oh, we found these on you, now you're going to jail, which does happen in America. So it talks about that. I don't want to say briefly, but it doesn't go super in depth about it. But yeah, anyways. But it does talk about gentrification and how the power of the rich few are trying to mold and take over a community that is less wealthy and thus holds less power and sway. But there is definitely some Parasite parallels I saw in here. So if you watched Parasite, this is surprising. Not surprising, but similar. So I get why some people said that this was kind of a letdown in some ways, or was like predictable. I personally didn't really see it. Like, I kind of guessed what the big mystery of the haunted house was. Like, I kind of guessed it, and I was like half right. But like, I get why some people are like, oh, it's so predictable. Like, yeah, because we've kind of seen it before. But at the same time, it was still interesting for me. All the other aspects of this are pretty interesting to me, that it still kept me reading it and kept me liking it, and I still liked it. The reason it wasn't a 5-star, I think, is because I don't know, there's just something missing. Again, there's just something that wasn't just quite there to make it a 5-star. I don't know what it was. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was because of the evangelicalism that it kind of felt like it was just kind of thrown there without much to do with it. Or I thought it was like, or like the thing with the bed bugs was kind of like, it was like kind of there but not quite there. I don't know. I still enjoyed it though. Definitely recommend it. I recommend all these books still to read. There's not one of these that I would say don't read it. No, I still recommend all of them. And then the last ones is the Binti trilogy. I did do a reading vlog on these three. I don't know if it's up or not. You'll find out. But I really like these. I gave 2 of them 5 stars, and I gave the last one a 4.5, I think. I really enjoyed it. I recommend this trilogy. Super quick, super easy read. I will read the... No, I read the back in my reading vlog. Anyways, it is a sci-fi and interstellar, intergalactic, really not galaxies, interplanetary. There's interplanetary travel. It's a coming of age. It takes a teenage girl wanting to leave her community and go to this university, but due to a series of events, her world is kind of flipped upside down, and it gets really stressful, and I don't want to say violent, but it does get kind of violent. So once again, read content warnings, because it does discuss war and death and ostracizing and stuff like that, but I like it. It's a really good also social commentary placed on a sci-fi background. Half the story, maybe not half, more than half of the story happens on Earth, and then the rest of the story happens either in space or on another planet. So, I don't know, I really liked it. I would recommend it. Quick reads. I think if you are in a reading slump, I would probably pick these up, because the first novella is like 90 pages. The second one is like 150 or something. I can't even remember. 160, and then the third one is 200 pages. Like, if you want a quick read to get you reading some pages and kind of get through it, these do read really quickly as well, not just because they're short, but because they're interesting. I really like her writing. I will be reading more from Nnedi Okorafor. I really enjoyed her writing style. I will say, though, in the last one, it felt like there was some repetition, I guess. Like, I get at the time that these were published, it would have made sense, but 2 of these were both published in 2017, so I don't see why she would have had to go through and kind of explain certain things in the 3rd book when it's like, 1, it's already the 3rd book. Like, we're kind of under an assumption, I guess you're not supposed to assume, but we're under an assumption that whoever is reading the 3rd one had already read the first 2. So, like, just some, like, the explanation of the Okuoko, like, we know what that is. You don't have to re-explain it. And there was another thing in here that I'm just like, I swear I just read this 10 minutes ago. And I wasn't sure if it was because I read Home so close to this, but it just, like, felt like, wait, I totally already read this paragraph. Like, I think that's why I ranked this one a little lower. It just felt like there was some things that were a little repetitive, and, like, some explanation or, like, recapping that we didn't necessarily need. Because, 1, this is so short, so if someone's like, oh, what is that? You could just reread these super quick. But also, like, these were so closely published together, like, they were copywritten. Sorry, they were copywritten in the same year. Which, so I guess I don't know if that means that they were published in the same year. First edition, January 2027. Okay, so a year apart, sorry. What was it? Okay, I'm stupid. That's fine. So these were, even still, only a year apart. Like, okay, sorry. That's, I guess, because I read these so close together that I kind of got a little annoyed with some of the repetition in here and the re-explaining of things that we just read in Binti Home. But still, overall, I still really enjoyed it. There's just a little bit of it. There wasn't so much of it that was like, oh, this is unreadable. But it was kind of like, oh, I could have skipped that paragraph. Or, like, did we really need those, like, 3 sentences or whatever? But yeah, anyways. I still really liked it. I would still highly recommend this trilogy. I got a lot of enjoyment out of it, and I did read it all in a weekend. One freaking weekend. I think I read this on a Friday night. I started and finished this on a Saturday, and then I started this on a Saturday, like right after I finished Home, and then I finished it on a Sunday. So yeah, that's it. Here she be. Here's the pile. I read so much So much. Even the stuff I didn't finish yet, I still read it. So, like Black Klansman, I think currently I'm at like 75, 80%. This month, this is a short month, and it's not, for me filming this, I still technically have like a week before the month. So I read 7 in less than, in 3 weeks, I think, yeah. 4 through 7, 8 through 14. Yeah, 3 weeks I read everything on my TBR for this month. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little exhausted. I kind of think I want to take a little break from reading. So the rest of this week, I'm not gonna put too much pressure on finishing that anthology or that audiobook. But that audiobook I'm probably gonna finish like tomorrow, to be honest. Or within the next 2 days. But that anthology, I'm not gonna put a lot of pressure on me finishing it. Just because I feel now a little burnt out. Just from the sheer amount of books I read in 3 weeks. I think I need a break. I'm gonna just go watch some YouTube and some anime and just like take this week easy before I get into my next month of reading. So for March, I don't know what I'm going to choose yet. To be quite fair with you, I have not planned it. I think I'm just gonna go into the library and pick out some books that I have on like my tagged wish list and see if they're available. That will be the first thing. See if they're available. Check them out, and if I read them, I read them. If I don't, that's okay. I have had a pretty book-heavy month. So, I won't go to the library until the end of this week. I think, yeah, it's Sunday right now, so I won't go to the library until the end of the week, but yeah, I think this week I'm just gonna take a little break. If I read that anthology, I read the anthology. If I don't, I don't. I will probably update it because I probably won't post this until later in this week. So, yeah. I think I deserve a break for reading for a little bit. Oh, but I feel really proud and accomplished so just looking at this. Dang. Plus the audiobook and ebook I did finish. Pretty proud. Pretty proud. If you did any fun reading this month, let me know what you had finished reading. How many books have you read? How many pages have you read? I set up a book and semi-recently a page goal. My book goal was 48 books this year, so it kind of comes out to like 4 books a month. And then my page goal, I put roughly, I think I put 12,000 pages for the year. And that's like roughly like 300, I think, pages per book, which... Okay, this month I read a lot of small books, but otherwise the other books I've read are about 300, 350 pages, so I think it's also a totally doable page goal. Yeah, because I don't know how many pages I read last year, but I know roughly how many books I read last year, so for sure my book goal is 100% doable. My page goal, not 100% sure about how doable that is, but yeah. Let me know what your goals for this month were, or like what books you were gonna read, what books you did actually read, and we'll see you on the next one. It'll probably be my March TBR, and possibly a quick little library vlog. I think I want to just do like a library vlog / TBR for like all of my TBRs, because I'm mainly getting books from the library. I do have some books that I grabbed that were like free from the library that you could just like take and own. So I have a pile of books there that I've been struggling with, to be honest. I have one book off of that pile that I've been trying to read for the past like 3-4 months, and I can't do it. So it's just a little weird. I'm like 50% through it, and I just can't, I don't know, man. I'm looking like right at it. Maybe that's gonna be on my March goal, is just to freaking finish that book, but we'll see. Yeah. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye!